Russell Harty, Part 1, production number 22445, date recording 22nd of September 77, take 1.
Okay, so welcome everyone, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a most protentious and forgot my words there, a most auspicious occasion here, because this is the 6th annual beginning of the world's greatest talk show, and this is starring, wait a minute, Russell Harty?
Russell
Harty?
Kermit, my dear friend, let's get one thing straight.
What?
Let's get the personnel of this unit sorted out. Tonight is not the Muppet Show, tonight is my show. You are my guests. If we understand, you and some of your friends are my guests. If we understand,
Russell Harty.
If we understand,
Russell, wait a minute. Russell, are you Russell Harty?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
And if we understand, and if we understand that you are my guests, it's not a Muppet Show. We shall have a happy and amicable evening. Okay, Kermit?
Oh, I guess so. Russell
Thank
Harty.
you very much.
That's
indeed,
you?
Kermit. Thank you. Yes, that's me.
Russell Harty.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I didn't think he would look like that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, as Kermit has just said, indeed, to the 6th magnificent year of this programme. I am told that Fozzie Bear is lurking behind there, together with the amorous and beautiful Miss Piggy. But before we meet them, let's meet the creator and the man behind Kermit the Frog, Jim Henson, and the key Muppet performer and also the man behind Miss Piggy's devastating karate chop, Frank Oz. Would you welcome Jim Henson on my right, Frank Oz on my left. Jim and Frank. Now, A, it's late at night, and B, you've skittered down motorways and roadways from your Elstree studios, where you have what I would consider to be a crippling schedule.
It's a rough schedule, yeah. We work pretty long days.
You say schedule, do you? Or?
Oh, that's right, yes. We say schedule.
Right.
I have to convert the thing,
Right.
schedule.
One of the astonishing things that you do, both of you do, is actually make everybody else who's working with you enjoy it. There is hoots of laughter and screams of laughter in the studio. Is that not very off-putting for what is considered to be a high professional engagement?
It's a great fallacy. No one really has any fun on our show. I just think it's time we accept this as the truth. Jim and I really don't like each other.
You've worked together for 17 years, 14 years.
He's getting on my nerves.
Right. And you chose tonight to make this public, indeed.
It had to happen sometimes. Sorry you had to be involved.
It is confidently reported, if you may pull the other leg, that you all were surprised at the shower of successes which fell upon you in the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
I
think, yes, we were certainly surprised at the reception this show got over here. We were hoping it would be well received, and we were surprised that it took off quite like it did. Mm. And no, I don't, I think the fact that people don't know us here. In the States, they know our work a little bit more, and they know us from Sesame Street and some of the other shows we've been doing.
How much liberated are you into lunacy? I mean, how much... do you know what I mean by that? I mean, how much...
Liberated into
your eyes have gone very large.
We're half crazy anyway. So
speak for yourself, Fred.
This is this half of the room, yes. And his knee is crazy. Yes. Yeah. Now our profession as performers allows us to do many things that people here in the audience or you can't do. I mean, I can do things with Piggy. I mean, you're not going to talk about lust. And you're not going to say, you love someone so much. You're not going to do that. You're not. Well, no, not really. I mean, you're not going to be outward like that, and you're not going to just smash somebody in half if they don't like you. I mean, that's great. I'm allowed to do that because of what I do, and Fozzie also. I can make a complete fool of myself, you know, with Fozzie Bear and all the other
Well, the
characters
rest
I do,
of us,
and they do
the rest
too.
of us, including Jim, I suppose, the rest of us are wandering about deeply repressed.
Me too. Oh, look, everybody, hey, come on. It's a big club, right?
The club of repression. Is it true that Kermit was originally your mother's dressing gown?
No, that was a spring coat.
But could Kermit have been anybody? Could it have been a bear or a tadpole or a lion or anything?
Well, it's interesting because originally, when I first made Kermit and when I first used him for several years, this was like 22 years ago, 21 years ago, I guess, that I made Kermit. And he was just a character, and he was not a frog necessarily. And at that time, all of our characters were more abstract. And a direction that has gone in recent times is that they've gotten more, you know, we've started working, well, Kermit became a frog about 9 or 10 years ago, really.
Was he always called Kermit?
Yes.
Yes.
And he always had the same kind of personality.
Yeah, when you say he just became a frog 9 or 10 years ago, in the beginning, Kermit was just kind of a creature, an entity.
Yeah. And all of my original characters were just that, and then we've gotten into more. You know, then Ralph became a dog, and Fozzie Bear is a bear.
Yeah. In order that I may dispatch this part of our kind of important, not psychological, what would you call it? I mean, what kind of discussion are we having now? When
Dull.
In order that we may bring this dull part of the discussion to an end,
yes.
the last dull question I want to ask you, and indeed the first non-dull answer you may want to give me, is what does it mean, do you think, when people write about you bridging generation gaps? What do you think that means?
Well, actually...
Can you make it really dull?
Yes. Well, first of all... No, puppets are traditionally, supposedly, anyway, for children. So because we have puppets, children watch. But because we're kind of zany adults, but professionals, we're trying to make the show entertaining for ourselves. Therefore, we get those people who were sympathetic to that point of view. So if that's called bridging a generation gap...
That's called sufficiently dull.
Yes,
Sufficiently dull, Frank.
Did I stall enough for the frog to come up?
Yes, I think it was an obvious ploy, you see.
Good.
Ask a dull question, you put on the frog, you see. That's the way it goes, you see.
Now, what about the running of the theatre, Kermit? Is that still in your very capable movie hands?
Well, hello. Yes, I still do my best to run a place, sure, you know.
Whom shall you be introducing us to this season? Kermit? Old Fruit?
What? Old Fruit?
Old chap.
Yes, well, let's see. Who's coming up? Well, we got some interesting things. We got a thing called Pigs in Space.
which is called Swine Trek, I do believe.
Well, Swine Trek is the name of the rocket ship that the pigs inhabit, you see, or live in as they plod through the greater bowels of the universe.
And who is in...
I'm sorry, I'm just watching, no problem.
I beg.
Hi there, Fozzie. That's Fozzie Bear.
I don't know if
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Fozzie Bear! Tell him a joke, Fozzie.
No, of course you can.
Hi.
It's just, I don't know if I was supposed to come up now, but things were getting very dull.
No, you weren't supposed to. No, you were supposed to wait until the frog got dull, and then you're supposed to come in.
Excuse me, I'll just stand in the background here and watch. Go ahead and answer some dull questions.
I'm going to ask some more dull questions.
Sure.
Fozzie, if you... Fozzie, of course. Kermit, if you are introducing new people into this new series of movies, can I ask you why it was not...
I'm sorry, your ears are dirty.
Fozzie, if you get down a little further, we can still see you. You see, you're supposed to hide out of sight.
This is a very attractive suit.
It's not a suit, it's a blazer, Fozzie, a blazer and trousers.
I'm only a bear, what do you expect? Sorry, go ahead. I'm only jumpy. Excuse me, I'll just stand here and watch.
Yeah, he's trying to ask a serious question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to ask an embarrassing question.
Oh, an embarrassing question. Oh, sure.
I don't want Fozzie to hear, because if he hears, it's going to cause even more embarrassment. Which is, if you've got new people on your new show, Kermit, I'm whispering a bit because I don't want Fozzie.
Yes.
Why couldn't you take the opportunity of getting rid of Fozzie?
Oh. Well, it is a more or less embarrassing question, but actually, Fozzie will be with us this coming season. He is, You'll be happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Fozzie's going to be with us. I did, during the interim in between these two seasons, I did wander around and I did interview various and sundry. I auditioned a lot of comedians.
You did?
Yes, yes,
I had, I auditioned a Wolverine, for instance.
What does a Wolverine look like?
Well, he was a
Forget that. Was he funny?
he was hilarious. Oh, this was one of the funniest. He did a stand-up Wolverine joke.
Why didn't you hire the Wolverine?
Well, actually, the truth of it was he wouldn't work for the kind of money we pay you.
Does he have? Do you have, Fozzie, a joke that you could tell us all tonight to make us laugh a lot? I mean, to try it. I presume you've had a holiday from your a term's holiday in which to practice your jokes. I mean, have you got a joke you could launch on us tonight?
Do I have a joke?
Be careful, because if you ask Fozzie for a joke right out in the middle of time, he may go into his cataleptic fit.
He could not put it out. He couldn't say it. He couldn't say it. No,
Fozzie, every now and then, you ask him to tell a joke, and he's not prepared, he goes right into a cataleptic fit.
No, what does a cataleptic fit look like? I mean, is he...
Well, it's actually a very... Oh, there, you've done it. You've done it. You see what he's done?
It's not working, is it, Fozzie? Fozzie, come on out of it.
No,
good.
Oh, too bad. He came out.
Good. Anyway...
We almost had a moment of peace there.
Right. Now then, Fozzie's still going to be with us. Is he going to tell us a joke tonight or not? Have you got one ready?
You tricked him out. He's off again, you see.
Right.
He might be there for the rest of the evening now.
Let's just leave him for 1 second while I...
Oh, please.
Well, tell us a bit about P.J. Gross. I'm delirious to know who P.J. Gross is.
P.J. Gross.
I fancy that he...
J.P. Gross, you mean?
J.P. Gross.
J.P. Gross, yes. Well, he actually owns the theater. You see, he's Scooter's uncle. If anybody follows the show Scooter, you know Scooter?
Yes, we know Scooter.
Yes, well, Scooter's uncle is actually showing up this year.
Right. And what does he look like? Will you describe him?
He's a terrible man. He's, well, you know, he wears a suit. He's one of those people, he wears suit and tie, and I see you're wearing a suit and tie.
I am, one of those terrible people. He's out of it.
No, I'm not.
One of the last questions one of the last dullish questions I want to ask for you, Kermit, is, you know, Robin is getting a very popular performer, becoming a very popular performer, singing songs and things. And also, you're getting on a bit. I mean, you're not a young-ish frog anymore.
Very old.
And Robin is sort of making big time. How much of a threat, Kermit, is this to you?
Well, I actually...
Very sad.
Yes, well, you see, actually, the truth of the matter is that I get a cut of any income he makes, you see. And so, therefore, I am pushing his career like mad, you see.
As a kind of manager?
I didn't know that.
I get 75% of all of Fozzie Bear's money, too.
I didn't know that.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
You don't pay me, you only pay me, what, $14?
That's all season. No, that's the whole season, sure.
Before he gets... look, Fozzie, I wonder
This is a shock.
Fozzie, would you do me a little favor?
We really shouldn't talk about money, you know, in front of Fozzie. It's,
Well, he's not going to catalepsy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Fozzie, would you mind awfully just nipping off to see if everything's all right? Because I have a very, very embarrassing, not a dull question, but a very embarrassing and private question to ask of Kermit. And I would rather, when I did this, that you were not with us. I don't wish to be rude to you, and I really do like you greatly, and I'm very happy that you came with us tonight. But
take a walk, Bear.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Goodbye, see you later.
No, he's okay. Yeah. He's a good bear.
Kermit,
yes.
The world is teetering on the edge of its seat, as indeed I am even at this moment.
No kidding.
Yeah, because it's also very hot. It's very hot. Wanting to know a very private and a very personal thing. Now, I wondered if you were in a position tonight to answer personal and very private questions.
Oh, well, I'm in a position. I'm sitting here. Yes, whatever position I answer the personal questions in, I suppose I'm...
You're in it now.
Yes, sure.
If, again, you are starting a new series, which you are next week, although other people think it's about 5 or 6 weeks ago, but time is a strange machine and we all have to jump onto it and make that something.
Yes. Get down to it.
How difficult
out with it, just spit it out.
How difficult is it for you to contain or take on board in your new series, Miss Piggy?
Miss Piggy.
Just watch it, how you answer.
Well...
Hello, Miss Piggy.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm just fine.
I was just asking a little private, personal question about you. It's funny you should arrive just now because we were just talking about you.
You're asking my frog?
I was asking your...
Yes,
your
hello,
friend.
hello, Piggy.
My frog. Hello, sweetie boo.
Yes. Actually, it would be very nice if you would not ask about our personal relationship. There's no relationship between us, and I would prefer not to answer any questions regarding our relationship.
But you just about 3 minutes ago, before Miss Piggy arrived, said that you would, and now you're turning in completely the other direction.
Russell.
Yes, Miss Piggy?
He protests too much.
There's nothing between us. There's nothing between us. Anything that you see on television as I talk to her, that is our entire relationship, and nothing else happens. And
not when the theatre door is closed, not when it's all over, nothing else happens. I think you're asking a lot of us to ask us to believe that.
Deeply shy. Deeply wants me. We know, don't we, girls?
Are you looking forward, Miss Piggy, to your... Are you going to look forward to your... We've obviously got to leave Kermit because he's
very attractive.
Sure.
Are you looking forward to your trip into space? Because you're going to go on the spacecraft, aren't you?
Yes, well, that is my new role on the show.
What do you wear in the spacecraft?
Well, I wear a cute little number. Yes! I wear this little... It's got a little zzz, little lightning right in front of it. And it shows off my best features.
Could you enumerate?
It has a very high collar, though.
Yes. Could you enumerate your best features?
No, but I could tell you them.
What are they?
Well, I'm deeply sensitive.
Of course you are.
And I'm built. You know what built is? I mean, you can see.
Yes, right. Superstructured, you mean.
Mm-hmm. And a lady.
To boot.
Yes!
I don't say anything at these times.
Kermit?
Yes, Miss Piggy.
Why did... What's so funny?
You all make a very good couple over there. I was just noticing.
Kermit.
Hey.
Why did you leave the studio? Why did I have to come here separately? Why didn't you? You said that. What is it?
I was riding in a little car and I didn't have room, so it was okay. Possibly you might be able to give her a ride home. Would you like to give Piggy a ride home? You two make a very lovely couple.
What about the pressures of space on pork?
What?
What about the pressures of space on pork?
What about the pressures of fist on flesh?
She's a
You're
killer.
pushing your luck, kid.
You can't stand too close, you know. I mean, you really have to be a little careful there.
I have one thing to say to you finally, Miss Piggy, which is this. Can I just enumerate some of the things you wouldn't do?
You can tell me.
You're a very attractive woman.
Oh, yes, it's a curse.
You're a very well-known woman.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be safe to say that you are a mature woman.
You betcha.
And you're obviously very well groomed and you take great care of yourself and you coif yourself beautifully and frequently. What went wrong?
There's one thing I should have told you.
What?
This.
Be careful. You gotta... Piggy, please. No. Take it easy on it, you know. I'm sorry about that. Really, you know.
Please.
Oh, dear. Listen, I apologize, but I had nothing to do with that.
Neither of you, I presume, had much to do with that. Are they as raucous as that when they're let out?
Well, we really can't, you know, we're not responsible for their actions.
How do you keep so cool with it all? I mean, I've lost 3 pounds in the last 25 minutes.
It's funny, no, I'm perspiring a bit, but when we do this on the show, of course, we're working a 12-hour day to put the show together, and you do get a little bit hot. But now, see, the great thing about doing this, see, an actor can't break up. And I don't know if the audience saw me, because the cameras didn't. But an actor, when he's doing a character, can't break up. But when Russell and Kermit were having fun, I was over here. I mean, I don't know if you saw me. I was just breaking up. And that's the great thing about doing this, because you're kind of performing and also entertaining yourself at the same time. Yeah.
Well, and you're performing, you certainly are. Entertaining, you do, both of you, all of you, magnificently. I cannot tell you how grateful I am, and we all are, for your help in launching the start of this new series. Thank you both very much indeed.
Oh.
We're going to take our break now. They'll be back at 7 o'clock next Friday with Jim and Frank behind them. That's the Muppets. And I'll be back in 2 minutes with the world's most perfectly developed specimen of manhood, and with the most astonishing story of towering human strength in the face of appalling adversity. Join me then.
Unbelievable! Unbelievable! What? I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
What?
This show's worse than the Muppet Show.
Hey, who is Russell Harty anyhow?
I don't know.
Never did like him.
Now we all start now.
Russell Harty, Part 2, production number 22445, date of recording 22 September 77, take 1.
Welcome back. Now, you might have thought that the man in the mirror there was lifting weights, building up his body to keep fit. In fact, he was pumping iron, a phrase invented by bodybuilders which describes the process of literally blowing up muscles with blood so that the owner of them can walk out before the judges in a bodybuilding contest and impress them with a full-blown image of his immense frame. Bodybuilding has best been described as the art of developing muscles in places where most ordinary mortals don't even have places. And it's come a long way since Charles Atlas first had sand kicked in his face. Today's potential champions take the business very seriously indeed. The film Pumping Iron, from which we saw that clip, tells just how cutthroat the business can be. Not only does a potential winner have to be on top form himself and properly pumped up at the vital moment, but he has to try and psych out his opponents before they even flex a finger. In other words, he has to try to put them off their stroke with very rude remarks and casual comments designed to undermine their confidence. My next guest is a past master of the art, and he has the trophies to prove it. 6 times winner of the Champion of Champions Award, Mr. Olympia, and then retired unhurt, and acclaimed worldwide as the most perfectly developed man ever. Ladies and gentlemen, the star of Pumping Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I tell you, I have to thank you. That was the greatest build-up I've ever gotten.
Really?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
But you surely had big build-ups when you went to be Mr. Olympia so many times. Did you have people shouting there about your achievements and your body and everything?
Oh yeah, it was, I mean, the last year I competed, it was absolutely insane, you know. I mean, we had around 5,000 or 6,000 people sitting out there, and it was like a rock concert. I mean, people were absolutely going crazy. They were standing, they were screaming, applauding, and the great thing about it is when you look down and you pose, and you see like the first 3 or 4 rows, all beautiful young chicks sitting there, you know, and going absolutely crazy over your body. I mean, that's when you say that it's like kind of like paying back to the effort you put in. Besides, of course, the financial.
What about the rows further back? What's on the rows? Is there a chicks on the first 2 rows? What on the
yeah, then it goes back, mixed audience, you know, man, woman, older ladies, and some older ladies really get off on this whole thing, I'm telling you.
Older ladies?
Oh, it's incredible. At one time, in 1974, when I won the Mr. Olympia contest for the 5th time in New York, there was a very sophisticated old lady coming backstage with jewelry, gold and diamonds all over. And she said to me, "Excuse me," she said in an accent almost like I have. She said, "Excuse me, could I buy your posing trunks that you wore up there for $1,000? So I said, "Yeah, give me the $1,000 in cash quickly, you know, because people pound checks all the time, you know." So she handed over the money, and I said, "Well, don't you want to have it washed? I sent it to you." She says, "Please keep it sweaty." I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, we won't go into rows 18, 19 and 20, so unless we get into deeper water. We saw you at the beginning in that bit there, pumping iron. Will you explain for us, because a lot of us are not used to the actual phrase pumping iron. Right. What does it actually mean?
It is a term that comes from the St. Quentin prison from 1930 already, which is one of the most popular prisons in America, and they had weight training there since
fullest prisons?
No, so they had since 1930 they had weight training there, and they used this term, which means pumping up the muscles with iron, with resistance of dumbbells and barbells and the machines, which are all metal. Right. And so that's where we got the term for the movie, Pumping Iron.
And you're pumping blood into all parts of your body?
Yeah, you do. I mean, not in all parts. I mean, we wait for other times to pump certain parts. You know,
yes, Arnold.
Okay. But in the muscles you want to pump up, you know, let's say if you train your back, you pump up the back, and what happens is blood flows in. If you do chin-ups, for instance, blood flows into the area of the back and it tears down muscle tissue. And then at night, when the muscle rests, hopefully it gets some rest, then through protein intake, you build up, and hopefully you build it bigger than it was the day before. And it is a long process, and it goes over years and years.
And you say in the film that you can actually direct any part of the pumping process to any part of your body that you require.
Exactly, it's like a form of yoga. You really have to concentrate on a certain part of your body when you train, when you do squats, for instance, with 500 pounds or so, that the blood goes into this area, which is the thighs, when you do squats. And it takes a long time to really get your mind trained for this kind of a thing.
Right. What about training your mind to go crash through what you call a pain barrier? Is it literally very painful at times?
Well, it is. I mean, anything you do to such an excess, you know, I mean, you experience certain pain. Pain with the frustration, for instance, already, you know, like you can't go any further, and it's a frustrating thing because you can't lift every day more weights because it's a long process. You have to break through that, and also through the actual pain barrier, through the physical pain barrier. Because when you do those repetitions with 400 pounds, the muscle starts hurting, and you know the only way you're going to be better than the next guy is by breaking through this pain barrier, and it's kind of like becoming friends with the pain.
What did you look like as a little boy?
I had an athletic body. I weighed around 150 pounds, with around 6 foot tall. And I was very athletic. I did a lot of different sports, you know, when I was 15 years of age.
And good at everything.
And I was very good in sports, but I think bodybuilding was the thing that I picked up on and I felt most comfortable with, and I felt I could be the best in the world, you know. So I picked up on that, and I trained 3-4 hours a day, and that's what you actually see in a movie. You see a bunch of guys, you see like 20 guys having a dream when they're young kids and saying, I want to be the world champion. And then you see in a film, you know, all those guys have the same energy in going after this title of Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia, and hungry.
Right, and hungry for all sorts of things, and,
right.
and for money also as well in many
Oh
parts.
yeah, you know, that's the most beautiful thing when you can make your hobby into a profession and you make a living of it. I mean, because 95% of the people hate their jobs.
Right.
And they know we are the ones who really love it. Going into the gym,
right.
training, doing something
there
for health.
There are also some very exotic things which happen on top of all that, which we'll come to in a minute or two. We have to take a break. Save them until we come back. Stay tuned. Join us in 2 minutes.
Russell Harty Part 3, production number 22445, date of recording 22nd of September 77, take 1.
Thank you and welcome back. I'm talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger. We left you as you were saying how majestic it was to combine your profession with a lucrative source of dollars coming out at the end of it.
Well, like I said, the greatest thing that can happen is if you have a hobby and you turn it into a profession and you do it full time and then also make money of it, you know. And I think that in 1970, when I won the 5th time the Mr. Universe contest, I decided that since I was always oriented in business anyway, and I went to university to study international economics, I thought that maybe I can combine both, which is the business area and the sport, and I did, and I started creating mail order businesses and show business and seminars and all kinds of things, you know, and I'm involved now in a lot of different things.
Are people surprised? Do people naturally expect you to be a dumbhead?
Yeah, which has been the best thing ever.
Do you ever pretend to be dumb?
No, I don't. I try to pretend to be smart. But it's really funny because as a bodybuilder, you can't do anything wrong because people think that you're dumb. Okay, so you go on these talk shows, if you screw something up, it's fine, it's your bodybuilder. If you do something good, they say it's fantastic, you can talk. It's incredible because they expect you to sit down and they say, well, how did you get into bodybuilding? And you say, you know, like this, one of those numbers, you know? Yeah, exactly. So it has been really good, and I have been getting so much good press in the United States because of that, you know, because they expected something totally different. Yeah. In the meantime, bodybuilders are very smart people, and you have to be mentally alert and good and well balanced in order to be a champion.
You can't be a devil, though. I mean, I've seen you in certain places, in certain, particularly in Pumping Iron, in which you are very ill-behaved when you're psyching people out. I mean, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah.
Can you explain what psyching people out means? It means getting the better of them.
It means that when you are competing in any sport, not only bodybuilding, in any sport, it happens that on the top level, 3 or 4 people are almost just the same, you know? I mean, they're just as good, and they all put their effort in, so you're trying to think all the time, what can I do in order to make this 1% step to get to the top? And so you have to use psychological methods, which is psyching out, what you just mentioned, which is shown really beautifully in Pumping Iron. Because we have to psych out the opponent. I mean, I sometimes walk in and I say to my competitor, oh my God, you look sick today. What happened? Did somebody die? You know, and he says, oh, really, do I look, you know, he looks in the mirror and he checks himself out and he worries about it the whole time. Or with Lou Ferrigno, for instance, who is also in the film, I did this, I called his father. I I mean, I knew when I called his father and tell him that I'm doing fantastic right now, that my training is going well, the father was the one who controls the son. So because he was training the son, so the father was the one who went back to the son and said, this guy is getting in shape, I don't know what we should do. I mean, and everybody was getting nervous, you know, they were stuffing the son with food and steaks and noodles, and you know, the Italian family and the whole thing. And so all those things I was doing, and even on the day of the competition.
Do people get hold of you and psych you at all?
No, I think it is just a thing that I introduced to the sport of bodybuilding. It never has been like that. Until I started it. Because in 1970 it was so close to competition. I remember that I actually, while I was posing and while we had our back to the judges, I told a competitor, let's just walk off. I said, this is too much. We've been posing for hours here. He says, good idea. And he walked off, and I was standing on the stage, and he was going like this, what's going on here? The guy is just giving up. You know, they must mean I'm better, you know? And so that changed a lot, you know? And then they introduced all these rules then that you can't do any prejudging anymore in front of an audience and so on.
The problems that you have to face while you're in competition or while you're in training, and it seems to me you're in training throughout your life almost, are monumental at times. There's a part in your life where you had to forego your father's funeral. You didn't actually go to your father's funeral, which I found slightly disturbing.
Well, the fact of the matter was that my father did not die before a competition. He died afterwards. So it was a line that I used that a French bodybuilder one time told me. There were a lot of things that are fictional in the film, as you know. The film is half documentary and half fictional because we wanted to create certain kind of excitement from the beginning to the end, where we create some kind of a mystery of who is going to win. And I used certain kind of statements in the film which were just pulled together from different bodybuilders, you know, which represents the bodybuilding game much more so than just me. And one French bodybuilder one time told me that he will not do anything before a competition. And even if he said his father died at one point, 2 months before the competition, and he would not go to the funeral because he would get sad and it would affect him emotionally, and he would just not do it. So I was so impressed with that, I mean, a way of to show that what people go through to become the best. And then after the competition, as you remember, there was this party to show the relief, you know, how people then act as, again, normal human beings.
Well, in San Francisco, a woman came up to you and made a suggestion to you about hot chocolate sauce.
Yeah.
What was all that?
Well, they invited me to a party in San Francisco. I get a lot of times invited to strange parties, okay? For some reason or the other. Well, I know the reasons why, but it's the kind of a thing. I went to the party, and this girl came up to me, and she just started in the middle of the party in front of 200 people. She started ripping off my shirt, and she says, I always wanted to do it, I always wanted to do it. For years I wanted to do it, and I said, do what? And she started pouring this hot chocolate on top of my body and licking it off. And you know, it was in front of 200 people, not that I mind having a girl licking chocolate off my body. I mean, it feels fantastic, you know, having the tongue going all over you, you know, but in front of 200 people. So I said, could you just stop this whole thing, this in front of people, you know? But she was so carried away, it was incredible.
In order that we can have a little foretaste of what we're going to see, can we have a look at your top? For the last few moments of
getting undressed in front of an audience?
Well, I mean, I've got there's a man round there with a little bit of music ready, and if you could just have 1 second of a ripple, at least we can tempt.
I tell you what I usually do on talk shows when I was asked that the host takes his shirt off and his jacket off. So why? And sometimes even females, I ask them. Barbara Walters one time asked me, and I said, take your shirt off, and I take mine off, and we then do some things together for the audience. Why don't we do that? Yeah.
But quickly.
Yeah, sure, quickly.
We have to start.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Okay, the tie. Yes,
I'll kill anybody who photographs. Okay. Keep the cameras on him.
Keep the cameras.
I'll show it to the audience.
No, we get a special lens for you.
You better start.
Sure, we start. Let's do it quickly. That's embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing. Max, start that music, will you please?
All right.
Oh, I feel so good.
Fantastic. Okay, do like this. Let me get the microscope. Oh, we found it.
That's all we have time for. Let's look at that. That's all we have time for. Well, lots of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You put your clothes around the back while I'm getting ready.
Okay, fine.
And lots of luck with pumping iron as well.
Thank you very much.
While he's getting dressed, will you wish him luck and say goodbye to him? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, thank goodness that's over temporarily. Can I just say to you that any of us who enjoyed the Muppets earlier on would have been very angry indeed if our television picture had slipped at the vital moment and we had missed the evil glances of Miss Piggy and simply had to make do with sound. 90% of the joy would have been lost, and a lot of television sets would probably have received a smart thump from the momentary inconvenience. Such is the way we take for granted the things we are used to seeing perfectly. I think that best illustrates the plight of my next guest, for at the risk of sounding corny, she was born with very bad reception on both these channels, and she inherited defective eyesight from her parents, and over a period the picture worsened until as a teenager she was plunged into total darkness. Now, initially, she refused to accept the limitations that poor vision tried to impose upon her. She rode a bike, she went to an ordinary school and tried to pretend that nothing had gone wrong. But when her sight completely deserted her, she had to accept these limitations until a new world opened up for her in the company of an outstandingly intelligent guide dog. The adventures they enjoyed together are quite amazing, and we shall be hearing about them in a minute, together with the events that led towards this very brave young lady being able to walk, unaided, down these steps tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheila Hocken. Welcome to you, Sheila. The childhood, which I've explained, was a slow, darkening process. I mean, you knew that you were going that way, did you?
Yes. Yes, I knew it was inevitable. It had happened to all the family.
It was, so it was, what do you call it, generic or genetic?
Hereditary.
Hereditary,
yes.
Yeah. And did anybody ever, during that period, hold out any hope that you wouldn't go blind, or was it not spoken about?
It just wasn't spoken about at all. Blind was a word that was, you know, absolutely taboo in the family. We had to ignore the fact that it was there.
But you knew?
Oh, yes, yes, because, say, it happened with my father. It was hereditary from him, and he coped without sort of admitting it, and so we had to as well.
But you describe in certain parts of the book you've written about this ordeal, I mean, things like that your meal times sounded to be very noisy. I mean, as you were crashing HP sauce bottles over and trying to chase pineapple chunks around your plate.
Well, I just think it was normal. People say to me, what was different about living in a family of blind people? And we didn't think that it was odd. We thought that the other people were odd. I mean, if you knocked a cup of tea over, or you couldn't find the salt, or you put the sugar in the wrong place, that didn't matter. It was when you went to other homes and it didn't happen, and you thought, why doesn't that happen? You know, why are they different? Right, right.
What happened when you persisted on things like tennis when you were at school and going to dances? That must have been hell, mustn't it?
I didn't really persist in tennis. I had to play, you know. I went to a sighted school. And they accepted me, but I'd got to do everything they did. And usually ended up with tennis playing with somebody who didn't want to play anyway. And we found the best thing to do was to hit the ball over the wire and spend the rest of the lesson looking for it.
And dances?
Well, I went to the odd dance. Obviously, if I wanted to go out when I was a teenager, I had to ask someone if they'd take me. And it meant I'd got to be their responsibility for the evening, which was terrible. And I think the only dance I ever went to, I sat there and I thought, why won't anybody ask me to dance? And then I thought, oh, what if they do? Oh, no, they mustn't, you know, I'd be terrified. And in the end, somebody did. And we danced. And he went. And I was stood in the middle of the floor all on my own, and I didn't know what to do. I hadn't a clue where I was. And I sort of think quick, you know, and I sort of pretended to straighten my dress and do my hair, and then somebody came and grabbed me and rescued me. And I disappeared. I thought, no, I daren't stop and let anybody else ask me.
How painful was it when you'd gone totally blind? People patronising you. Did you find that a painful experience?
Yes, because
you wouldn't use a white stick, would you?
No, I just didn't want to admit I couldn't see. Now I realise that that was terrible, because I was in terrible danger to motorists. You know, I must have caused some heart attacks walking across roads in front of lorries and things. And I used to walk into lampposts and people and everything. But I just sort of walked along the pavement and kept saying, sorry, sorry. And I got along. I just didn't want to admit I couldn't see. To me, it was a shame, you know.
But you had an enormous boost to your morale when you were introduced to a dog called Emma.
Oh, yes. It was so funny how it happened, because I was going home from work and I only lived sort of about 15 minutes on the bus from work. And it took me 2.5 hours to get home because I couldn't catch a bus. And there was nobody there to ask, and I got totally lost, and in the end I got home. And my home teacher was there. They're people who come and help you if you can't see. They advise you, sort of social services. And when I got in, I told him what the trouble had been. He said, why on earth don't you have a guide dog? And I just hadn't thought of one. And he got the forms for me and applied, and oh, they wanted to know everything. They wanted to know what my hobbies were, where I worked, how tall I was. They even wanted to know how much I weighed, and I had to go on a diet, you know.
You were ashamed of it? Were you fatter than you are now?
Yes, much.
Yeah. And the training, when you had to go meet Emma for the first time and start training with her in the establishment, seemed to me, from your account, to be very harsh, almost cruel. I mean, they shouted at you, they gave you a hell of a ride, didn't they?
Yes, but you see, you don't want sympathy, and I think if you go to a place like Guide Dogs, you expect to be treated as equal. And you'd be shouted at if you could see, so why not if you can't? And I think this was the way to get people moving, to make them independent.
And the dog that you were actually fetched up with and still have, and we shall be meeting in a minute, is the most ingenious dog. If your account is true in your book, and I have no reason to doubt it's not true, it's a most extraordinary dog in the world. I mean, for ingenuity, for variety, yes, for knowing what you're thinking and knowing where you want to go. I mean, just scatter a few instances of that.
Well, I think that to begin with, you have a sort of sense with your dog. You become one when you work together, and we became one very quickly. And the first thing that ever happened to me that made me realise she was something different was we used to have to go to work and catch 2 buses and cross our square in the middle. And I'd had to learn the route because, of course, you must tell your dog where you want to go, and she does the guiding. So I have to memorise routes. And it was easy, cross the first road, cross the square, turn right, find the 43 bus stop. So off we went. And the amazing thing was that the next morning she took me there, and I never even told her because she remembered, and I thought, that's clever. And this happened for about 4 mornings. And then the next morning we got into the market square, and I listened for traffic because it's up to me to listen and her to look. If I didn't hear anything coming, then I would say forward. If she could still see something, she'd stop, wait till it's clear. Well, I couldn't hear anything, and I told her to go, and she wouldn't go. And I waited a little longer, and in the end she got up and she turned right, walked along the pavement, turned left, crossed a road, turned left again, sat down, and I thought, where on earth has she brought me? I was totally lost. I thought, I'm going to be late for work. And if you've ever tried to tell the boss it was the dog that made you late for work. And I heard somebody passing, and I said, excuse me, can you tell me where the 43 bus stop is? And this little fella said, yes, your dog sat at the very post. And I thought, that's odd. Well, I got on the bus and I went to work and actually forgot all about it. Until the next morning, again we got into town. Again she wouldn't go the way I told her. But this time she got up and turned left, not right as she had the day before. Crossed a road, turned left, crossed in the road, sat down. There we were at the 43 bus stop. And this really puzzled me, and I thought maybe they were building something in the square or there were roadworks and she couldn't go across. And I asked a friend at work, and she said, no, there was nothing there when I came across. And it took me about 3 or 4 days to realise what it was. Emma hated going the same way to work every day. So she just picked a different route round the square every morning. The only trouble was her routes got longer and I used to have to get up early to get
But the wonderful thing also that if you went to make a telephone call in a telephone box and there was somebody in it, she could take you to another one.
Well, yes, that happened. We just moved to a new area, so of course we were both learning. Yeah. And I wanted to make a call, and we got into the telephone box, and actually somebody had cut the wire and taken the phone with them, you know, and I didn't know what on earth to do. And I thought, well, the best thing is to keep on this main road. I'm bound to hear somebody pass, and I can ask them where to find another box, because obviously Emma wouldn't know where to look. And I went out and I told Emma, and she ignored me.
What did you say? You say you told her. What did you actually say to her?
Well, I said just walk down the main road because we want another telephone box. You know, that one's out of order. Because all the time you're talking to your dog. Well, you must, because if you don't, you lose contact. I mean, I remember when I was training at Leamington and the trainer said to me, now talk to your dog, because otherwise she'll forget you're there and she'll go off on what she wants to do. And I said to him, what shall I say? And he said, it doesn't matter, tell her what you had for breakfast, you know. So there I was saying, Emma, I had bacon and eggs and it was delicious. And you've always got to talk to your dog. And so off we went, and I thought she was taking me home because she wouldn't go down the road. She started taking me back. And I said, oh, you silly dog, I don't want to go home, I want to find another phone box. But when we got over the other side, she didn't take me home. She started going up a road. Well, neither of us ever been up before because they were sort of building and demolishing all in one fell swoop. And, oh, it was terrible. There were bricks all over and I was really annoyed with her, but she just wouldn't go back. And we got to the top and she turned left and walked down a bit and sat down. And you can hear if something's in front of you. And I put my hand out and there was a telephone box. And it worked.
You're swearing to God that all this is true,
absolutely. I don't know how.
Well, let's meet the hero sitting over there. Emma, she's asleep. She's gone to sleep.
Emma. Emma.
Give her a big hand.
Emma.
There's Emma.
Emma, come on, Emma. Emma, come on, over here. Emma. She's tired. Come on, Emma. Good girl. Good girl.
Now, this is Emma, and on more than one occasion, she actually saved your life in a serious circumstance, didn't she?
Yes, I think when you've got a guide dog, the thing is, you can't see, so you don't know what they do. And the times when people tell you, you realise. And I was going home one night, and Emma knows what a zebra crossing is, so I'd asked her to find the zebra, and she'd stopped. And I'd heard a big vehicle stop, and I thought it was safe, you see, to go across. And we stepped out, and suddenly Emma came in front of me and pushed me back. And I thought, she's being silly, they've stopped. And I pushed her out of the way, and she did it again. And at that moment, I felt this car. It was so near. It, you know, made all my hair stand on end. It went zoom. And it was a bus that had stopped first, and he got out, and I can't tell you what he said, because it wasn't nice, but he swore at the car.
You can indicate what yeah.
He swore at the car and said how terrible it was, and that he'd nearly run me over, and if it wasn't for Emma pushing me out of the way, I would have been killed. And he said, what a marvellous dog you've got, me duck, you know, and off he went, and I stood there, and I thought, what a marvellous dog I've got,
right,
you know.
Right. You also met at this time a marvellous man. A man who was actually, if we put the lights on, we'll have a look at him, he's sitting over there. That's Don, who fell in love with you and subsequently married you, and obviously looks after your dog when you're appearing on talk shows. Say hello to Don for us, will you? Don Hocken. So, we've got you now in your story. We've got you surrounded by the warmth and the love of Don, who's sitting there, and the reliability of Emma, who's lying down here at your feet. But you're still blind in your story, right?
Yes.
Then, obviously, if I can use words, I mean, it's very difficult talking about blindness because you keep using sighted words all the time, or one does. A glimmer of hope springs on the horizon and obviously faces you with the most difficult prospect you've yet had to face, which is news from your brother about a doctor.
Yes, my brother rang me up all excited that he'd heard about a marvellous specialist, and he'd been to see him, and he'd offered him almost, you know, perfect sight. There was just a slight chance. But my brother's only got one eye, and if he lost it, that would be it. So he said to me, you go, you've got nothing to lose. And sure enough, I hadn't. And Emma, of course, took me. I went to see the specialist. And it was a bitter cold day, I shall never forget it, and we went on the bus. And when we got into the waiting room to see the specialist, oh, the funniest thing happened. I sat down and somebody said, hello, Emma, how are you? You know, they didn't speak to me, oh, really? But they'd met Emma at one of the functions, you know. Yeah. And when I went in the room to see Mr. Shearing, I would have given £1 million to see his face, to see somebody walk in with a guide dog. I bet he thought, oh no. And at first he thought I'd bought the guide dog to see him, because apparently he had treated dogs for cataracts. Anyway, I told him the whole story, and he had a look at my eyes, and I was sat there full of hope, because my brother had said perfect sight, you know, and I think I'd built so many things up. I mean, I'd even sort of put a deposit on a new car, you know. And I thought, this is it. This is going to be what I've been waiting for. And he sat there and he sort of, hummed and hawed a bit, and I said, well, go on, tell me. And he said, well, what are you expecting? And I said, I don't know, but you must be able to say something. Perhaps you can do anything, you know. And he said, well, I can't do much. He said, I could try, but it wouldn't be much. And I said, well, how much would it be? Would I be able to see to read if it was successful? And he said, I don't work miracles. And I felt so upset, you know. I don't know how to explain it. And he said, well, you've nothing to lose if you do come in. And he said the food in hospital is very good nowadays, you know.
And you can have a rest.
Yes. So after a bit of thought about it, I decided to go. And actually, I had to wait 9 months for the operation, which is funny because I waited 9 months for Emma and 9 months for the operation. You wait 9 months for everything, don't you?
And you got one of those as well, but
yes,
more of that later, yes.
And, oh, gosh, I mean, I went home and, of course, I told Don and I told everybody. And then I sat thinking about it. Well, they don't know how